Okay, so there's some steps here for solving word problems, but I'm just going to kind of go through the problems. You can solve these problems using algebra or possibly just kind of thinking your way through, reasoning your way through. So anyhow, I'm going to use algebra here. So what I like to do is just start translating. This is 9. Subtracted from, it is actually something that lets me know to move this 9 over here. So it's going to be like a minus 9. 8 times a number is just 8 times x, or 8 times n. Again, it's 9 subtracted from, so it's 8n minus 9. Should move that there. And then is 39, well, that is means equals, right? So, and then 39 needs no translation, so 8n minus 9 equals 39. Add 9. So 8n equals 48. And divide by 8. So n equals 6 for that first one. The next one is, as you can see, almost the exact same thing, different numbers. 4 is just the number 4. Subtracted from 6 times the number, so subtracted from means it's going to be a minus 4 over here. 6 times the number is simply 6n is 68, so equals 68 by the number, so just solve that. So add 4, get 6n equals 72, and divide by 6, n equals 12. So in this next problem, as I'm reading it, I see we're just going to assume 1 week in order for it to make sense. So $1.25 a week, so for 1 week plus 20 cents per mile to rent a small car. So that's again assuming 1 week. If it's 20 cents per mile, then I'm going to use m to equal number of miles. So these word problems, you definitely want to define a variable like this. M is the letter, and it stands for number of miles. Then I can write out an equation. So this one, for again, if it's 1 week, so I'm getting charged $1.25 per week plus 20 cents per mile. So 125 plus 0.2 is 20 cents times the number of miles. How many miles can I travel for? $335. So I can set it up using algebra and then solve it. Subtract 125. So I'll get 210 here, and then divide 210 divided by 0.2. So 1,050 miles. Can travel 1,050 miles with $335 based on spending $1.25 per week and then 20 cents per mile. For again, this is based on 1 week. You guys could kind of backwards map this and just reason it out without using algebra. You could just be like, well, I have $335. I'm going to have to spend $125 just for the week, and so you could do that. $335 minus $125, just the same way that I just did it. Over here I set up the algebra first, but it's still, my first step is this. Once I see that I have 210 left to spend on my miles, well, at 0.2, or at 20 cents a mile, I can divide that by 0.2. I still get the same answer. So point being, you can use full-blown algebra, or you can just kind of reason it out, and as long as you show work, that's acceptable. So next problem is almost the exact same thing, and so again, we're just going to assume 1 day on this one. So we could just say h equals the number of hours and then I can write an equation where my total, right? My total, 82 bucks, is going to be equal to the $50 charge plus 8 times the number of hours. Right? Subtract 50, get 32. Bring down the 8h, divide by 8, and so I'm getting 4 hours. For $82, I can rent this machine for 4 hours. No algebra, you could simply do the same thing. You could say, well, I have 82, they're going to charge me 50 just to get that thing out the door. With the $32 I have left, at $8 an hour, I can rent this thing for 4 hours. So again, you can solve these using algebra or just reasoning, but as long as you show work, either way is fine. So these next ones can be a little tricky, but just do your best to understand. So let's see, the number of cats in the United States exceeds the number of dogs by 7.5 million. That means there's more cats than dogs. The number of cats and dogs combined is 114.7 million. Determine the number of dogs and the number of cats in the U.S. So let's see here. The number of cats it's more than the number of dogs by 7.5 million. So let's see. Yeah, and by the way, this can be done in a number of different ways, but let's say I'm using C as number of cats, then remember there's more cats than dogs. There's more cats than dogs. So if I go, and there's 7.5 million more cats than dogs. So if I subtract from the cats, if I subtract 7.5 million from the cats, I'll have the number of dogs. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Again, there's however many cats there are, there's 7.5 million more cats than dogs. So again, if C is the number of cats, then the number of cats minus 7.5 million will give me the number of dogs. And then my number of cats plus number of dogs. If you read the next sentence, number of cats plus number of dogs total is 114.7 million. So again, I'm using algebra to do this one. So I'm going to add the number of cats, which I did call that C, and then I'm going to add the number of dogs, which I called C minus 7.5. And so again, the number of cats plus the number of dogs equals 114.7 million. You see what I've done here? I've defined the number of cats as C. I've defined the number of dogs as C minus 7.5 for the information. And if I add the number of cats and the number of dogs, C plus C minus 7.5, that'll equal the total number of cats and dogs, which they told me was 114.7 million. So, find like terms. I'm going to go ahead and add this 7.5 over to the other side. Same line here. 1C plus 1C is 2C. Cross that out, it cancels, it zeroes out. And 114.7 plus 7.5, let's, you can do this by hand, but you can use a calculator too, whatever you like. So, let's have 122.2. Oops. And if we just divide that by 2, we get 61.1. So I'm going to just go backwards here and identify that C is 61.1 million cats. So 61.1 million. Right, that's cats. The number of dogs would be 61.1 million minus that 7.5. So the number of dogs would be 53.6 million dogs. And again, that hopefully isn't too tricky. There is more than one way to do these, but I think I'm just going to use the algebraic method. But you can reason this out a little bit also and get it that way. Just the video, I can't make it that long, and also don't want to confuse you with more than one method. So if you can come up with a different way to do this one and you can show your work, that's fine. But again, you can go back and you can check all of it, and you can see if you add the cats and dogs, does it even add up to 114.7? Well, 61.1 plus 53.6, that should give you exactly 114.7. So that's how you can check your final answer. It should add up to, right, if you add the number of cats and the number of dogs, it should add up to 114.7. Again, another thing you can do is you can subtract here 61.1 minus 53.6, and that'll let you know that 7.5 million is the difference. Yet another surefire way to see if you did it right or wrong. This next one's very similar. Two of the top-selling music albums of all time are Alanis Morissette, Little Jagged Little Pill, and Saturday Night Fever, Bee Gees. The Morissette album sold 5 million more copies than that of the Bee Gees. Combined, the two albums sold 27 million copies. This is almost identical, where I could say A equals Alanis albums sold, and then the Morissette album sold 5 million more, which means the Bee Gees sold less. So I can say A minus 5, right? The number of albums sold by Alanis minus 5 million will be the number. Oops, again, we'll stop here. The number of Bee Gees albums sold. Right, so and then it says together they sold 27 million copies. So the number of Alanis albums plus the number of Bee Gees albums sold equals total 27 million. So AKA A plus, right, A plus A minus 5 has to equal 27 million. So A plus A is 2A. If you add that 5 over, you will get 32, divide by 2, and you get A 16. So this is telling me that the Alanis Morissette album sold 16 million copies. And let's see here. So if we take that and subtract 5, let's see here. 16 minus 5, that's 11, right? So 16 million for Alanis album sold, 11 million for that Bee Gees album sold, and then if you add 16 plus 11, you will get the 27 million. So again, everything kind of lines up at the end. It should if you did it right. So again, total album sold for the two albums, 27 million. That adds up. If you subtract 16, take away 11, you'll get 5. Remember, the Alanis album sold 5 million more copies. So again, 16 is 5 more than 11. So everything kind of aligns, and it makes